please. Danish people simply think that helping another person out is just something you do, and therefore, you should not have to beg for it. I kinda like that, to be honest. Speaking of the Danish language, they do have another...
Olá pessoal, bem-vindos a mais um vídeo nesse canal. Nós somos cidadãos do terceiro mundo e nesse canal a gente reage sobre o primeiro mundo. Nesse vídeo, a gente vai reagir à Dinamarca explicada.
Então pedimos que, por favor, você considere se inscrever, ative as notificações e também faça mais sugestões. E agora vamos para a reação.
Hey guys, and welcome to this very first episode here at Countries Explained. My name is Kenan, and I'll be your host today. Our mission is to provide you with amazing facts and knowledge from every single country in the world. Each video will cover a unique country, and we're giving you one episode on a weekly basis, because, you know, time and stuff. But hey, maybe one day we're doing this thing full time and can pump out videos on a daily basis. Let's see what happens, yeah? We honestly couldn't decide what country to start with. Sure, we could have gone alphabetically, but that kind of felt like something you do in 2006, right? Or we could have gone with the largest by population or something similar.
Yeah, that probably would have been a good idea.
Anyways, we decided to just put a big map on the wall, chew on a piece of paper, and shoot it through a straw. Where the wet paper landed, that's the country we're starting with, and as you already know by the title of this video, we hit Denmark with the wet, pulp-like piece of paper. Which, if you think about it, is kind of weird since it's one of the smaller countries on the map. But hey, paper does fly in mysterious ways. But let's not waste any more time here and instead jump straight into our very first video. Denmark, it's your time to shine.
É muito lindo.
So we're starting off with a segment we'd like to call Quick Country Overview. Not too shabby of a segment title, right? Denmark is attached directly to the continent of Europe, where it's one of the smaller countries with an area of 43,095 kilometers squared. However, the Kingdom of Denmark also includes the Faroe Islands as well as the island of Greenland, bumping the area up to a significant larger size of 2,210,579 kilometers squared. Denmark is also a part of Scandinavia, which commonly is the term used for Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, while the term the Nordics also includes Finland, Iceland, and their associated territories such as Greenland, Faroe Islands, and Åland.
Åland.
Yeah, try to say it yourself. It's not easy. Denmark is connected.
Eu acho muito interessante porque essa questão da Groenlândia ser um território que faz parte da Dinamarca me pegou totalmente de surpresa. Eu desconhecia isso totalmente e quando eu estudava, falavam muito sobre Groenlândia, mas não falavam sobre essa questão da Dinamarca. Então isso realmente é surpreendente.
To Europe via its only on-land neighbor, Germany. All the other borders are maritime, with Norway and Sweden to the north and United Kingdom on the very far west, all the way across the North Sea. On the opposite of Denmark, being the east side, we have the Baltic Sea, and in between these, we have three passages, which is called, named from west to east, Skagerrak, Kattegat, and the Sound, or actually it's called Øresund, but my Danish probably isn't on point here. The population of Denmark is around 5,800,000, which ranks them pretty far down on the list of countries and dependent territories by population. And we can spot Denmark first at number 115 on this list that consists of 235 countries and territories. Danish, or dansk, is the official language, and its closest relative is Norwegian, which is spoken in Norway, but most educated Danes do speak a second language as well, particularly English. But languages such as Turkish, Arabic, and German are also spoken at some scale, as well as a few other minority languages spoken mostly by members of the country's various ethnic groups. The official religion of Denmark is Evangelical Lutheran, but the country practices religious freedom, even though an overwhelming majority of Danes, about 85% of them, remained members of the state church called Folkekirken. But other than that, you'll find Jewish synagogues, mosques, and Roman Catholic churches around the country. The flag of Denmark is called Dannebrogen, and it's red with a typical Scandinavian white cross that extends all the way to its edges. and the Danes have taken pride in their flag for a very long time. In fact, it's the oldest continuously used national flag in the world, dating back to the 15th of June, 1219. So what's the history?
Caramba, então desde essa época eles nunca trocaram a bandeira.
Realmente, eles adotaram essa bandeira
Uau!
há muitos anos atrás. É incrível como eles permaneceram com ela até os dias atuais.
Sim, porque aqui no Brasil mudou, né? Uau!
Sim.
Of this country. Let's jump into our history segment and find out. Since the end of the last ice age, people have been migrating from the eastern and southern parts of Europe to the northern area, a place which today includes Denmark. The rich soil, closeness to water, and terrain has ever since helped shape Danish history and culture. One of the most notorious periods in Danish history is the Age of the Vikings. It began around 793 AD, with the raid on the English title island of Lindisfarne. The Viking Age lasted for about 250 years, and under it, Danish Vikings were quite victorious under their time. One Viking in particular, called Sven Sukik, or Sven Forkbeard, if translated freely, and his son, Canute de Stua, which translates to something like Canute the Great, were once kings of Denmark, Norway, southern Sweden, Greenland, the Faroe Islands, Shetland, Orkney, and parts of England. Now that's a handful to keep track of. Then came Christianity. In 965 AD, the Danish king Harald Bluetooth, yes, we know, that translation is amazing, and he was way ahead of his time with that name, got baptized, and the Christian religion became a big part of the Danish society. However, it didn't turn the once so brutal Danes into a people filled with peace and harmony just yet. They continued to fight to maintain and expand their lands a few hundred years more. The next major part in Danish history came in 1397 with the Kalmar Union that
Isso é incrível porque teve essa influência do cristianismo muito forte, e é muito interessante perceber que existem templos cristãos lá também. Então é incrível como isso foi muito marcante em vários lugares do mundo, essa influência da religião cristã, e conseguiu alcançar a própria Dinamarca. Uma vez que a gente não pode esquecer que a Dinamarca faz fronteira apenas com um único país, a Alemanha.
brought the kingdoms of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden together under a single monarch under the leadership of Queen Margaret I. This peaceful union lasted until the year 1523, when Sweden decided to break out of it, and this was the starting point of a long rivalry between Sweden and Denmark. In the end, Denmark lost the war to Sweden, who took over the parts that today is southern Sweden. This loss was one that really made Denmark into the country it is today. They introduced hereditary and absolute monarchy in the country, and it helped them form the strong, well-organized state it is today. In World War I, Denmark remained neutral.
Isso é muito interessante porque a maioria dos países desenvolvidos e dos países ricos, eles são realmente menores, né? Os próprios países europeus, que são exemplo de sucesso, eles são realmente menores, mas eu não entendo porque aqui no Brasil a gente não pode ser assim também, mesmo que seja grande, porque nós temos cidades pequenas e elas não têm esse desenvolvimento.
Sim,
então é surpreendente isso.
Sim, essa sua observação é muito interessante, porque a gente poderia concluir que simplesmente por ser geograficamente menor, é mais fácil de se administrar. Mas acho que tudo é uma questão de você fazer adaptações. E como você falou, a gente tem muitos locais aqui que são pequenos dentro de um país, mas que mesmo assim a gente não consegue se desenvolver.
And after the war, their economy started to evolve, all until April 9th, 1940, when the still neutral Denmark was invaded by German troops. Overwhelmed by the German war machine, the country got occupied for 5 years under the Nazis. But the light returned to the Danish people. On May 5th, 1945, Denmark was free from the German occupation, all thanks to the Grand Alliance, which consisted of the UK, US, and the Soviet Union. Denmark's economy started to flourish again, and they became more and more internationally involved with increased exports of design goods, furniture, bacon, and butter. Today, Denmark is a constitutional monarchy ruled by a representative democracy and a strong defender of free trade and human rights. So now you learned everything you need to know about the history of Denmark. So give Countries Explained some credit on your next essay, will ya? Now, let's go over some of those fun, interesting facts that you have all been waiting for here in our next segment. The Danish language has no word for please. Danish people simply think that helping another person out is just something you do, and therefore, you should not have to beg for it. I kinda like that, to be honest. Speaking of the Danish language, they do have another pretty remarkable word in there, though. It's called hygge, and it's basically a word for that cozy feeling of togetherness. The Danish pastry is actually from Austria. Most of us have heard about the Danish pastry called wienerbrød or Danishes. However, most of us don't know that these are actually from some Austrian bakers that settled themselves in Denmark in the 1840s. Also, this is why it's called wienerbrød or Viennese bread from Vienna. The two oldest amusement parks in the world are in Denmark. Bakken, which is just outside of Copenhagen, is the oldest in the world, and the second oldest is called Tivoli Gardens and is based right in the middle of the capital. Lego is from Denmark. We all love it. I don't even care if you say no. I know you love it. Lego is amazing, period. And it was invented by the Danish guy Ole Kirk Christensen in the town of Billund in 1949. No matter where you're at in Denmark, there is a maximum of 52 kilometers to the ocean. So if you want an ocean view, move to Denmark apparently. So what's the country really famous for in the world? Well, like most Scandinavian countries, it's known for its high-quality design and architecture. Brands like Bang & Olufsen are a major player in the sound business. But other than that, they also have the iconic red hot dogs called pølse. And then there is Carlsberg, the world-famous beer, who probably has the best slogan in the world. You see what I did there? What about celebrities or other famous people? One of the greatest writers, Hans Christian Andersen, is from Denmark, and I'm sure you've heard about some of his tales, such as The Little Mermaid or The Ugly Duckling. Mads Mikkelsen is another famous person. The actor has been seen in movies such as Doctor Strange and Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Or what about the American series Hannibal, where he played Dr. Hannibal Lecter himself? And let's not forget about the physicist Niels Bohr, who in 1922 won the Nobel Prize in Physics in recognition for his services in the investigation of the structure of atoms and the radiation emanating from them.
Incrível. Que país incrível. Mas algumas informações a gente já sabia, mas essa do por favor, eu não lembro disso. A gente já tinha visto isso? Porque para mim isso só mostra como é a cultura dinamarquesa. Uma coisa que a gente já fala aqui, que é uma cultura linda, um povo que tem empatia pelo próximo, pessoas que se importam com o próximo. E eu acho que isso é um dos motivos também de ser um país que é muito bem desenvolvido e conseguiu alcançar muitas coisas.
Sim, sem dúvidas. Algumas informações de fato a gente já viu. Eu realmente não me recordo dessa informação que foi passada, mas o vídeo é muito interessante porque reforça algumas coisas que a gente já conhece, mas traz outras curiosidades. Então nunca é demais a gente estar reagindo sobre um país que a gente já tenha visto anteriormente, porque sempre a gente aprende um pouco mais do que a gente já aprendeu antes. E só o fato do respeito aos direitos humanos, né, e a gente vê como é colocado em prática na Dinamarca e realmente algo que funciona, é fantástico. E é justamente por isso que a Dinamarca é um país de primeiro mundo.
Sem dúvidas, mas essa foi a reação desse vídeo, então se você gostou, aproveita para se inscrever, ativa as notificações e também faça mais sugestões.
Muito obrigado por assistir esse vídeo e a gente se vê na próxima reação.
Tchau!